Hi, folks. So we'll go for another jaunt in the woods while I talk about being naked and cold on Mars. First thing I want to bring up, though, is something that seems maybe minor to some people, or they just don't even think about it. But I believe it's very important, certainly psychologically. If you're leaving Earth, going to Mars, as soon as you leave this planet, you're never going outside again. Ever. It doesn't matter if you're standing on Mars in a spacesuit. You're inside a spacesuit, which essentially is just a portable room to provide you with the atmospheric pressure, the air, and the warmth you need to stay alive. Now, to a certain extent, this is going to be a kind of a minor story, but I believe it illustrates an important aspect of successfully surviving on Mars. A personal story of my experience in many, many years of dealing with cold climates. It's about the middle of February now, and I've discovered over the years that about this time I have this pretty much irresistible urge to strip down naked. Now, I'm not trying to be purulent about it. This isn't about sex. You see, in a climate like this, you have to get all dolled up in essentially our equivalent of a spacesuit. And today's actually a pretty mild day. It's only about minus 10, 12 degrees Celsius. So really I'm fairly lightly dressed. And it's calm as could be, so I don't have to worry about the wind chill. But I have even other layers that are more constraining to keep me comfortable. And certainly one thing I've learned over the years is just because I live and work in cold climates doesn't mean I have to be cold. And considering the type of garments we have available now, I have no business being cold. But it gets damn tiresome by about this time to put on multiple layers and then feel constrained by those, because you do. Your range of motion is more limited, and there's all sorts of little annoyances. Yeah, your nose is itchy. Well, you got these big things to scratch with. You got an itch on your back. Well, you can't get to it. Your feet get sweaty and damp, and that gets annoying. Got a little sliver down there, a wood chip. And that's annoying as hell, because it's essentially about a half-hour job just to find a spot to sit down where you're not going to get yourself all covered in snow, undo a whole bunch of stuff just to get that sliver of that wood chip out of your boot. And invariably you say, well, to hell with it, I'm not doing that till I'm done what I'm doing. So you are annoyed as hell for the next however long while this thing nags at you and pokes you, and your temper gets shorter and shorter as this annoying little thing bugs you. You repeat that over days and weeks, and as I said, it gets pretty darn tiring and annoying. And then you're inside, well, you're still in winter, and you still have layers on. And pretty soon, if you're paying attention at all, you just gotta get naked. And it's surprising how it doesn't take very long. Yeah, you wander around for an hour in your house in privacy, and that's pretty easy for me since I live alone. And things are okay then. So you multiply that by 1 billion as far as your options are concerned, or your procedures and protocols that you're going to have to follow on Mars, and to realize that in the back of your mind that all of these seemingly small steps that you have to take are essentially essential to your survival, never mind just your comfort like we have here on Earth. And that pressure builds up. It makes life less enjoyable. So I'm sure NASA astronauts have and are dealing with this to a certain extent. Certainly the people that are up on the International Space Station must have to cope with this to a certain extent. There's issues of privacy that have to be taken into account. But at the same time, they can't be as prudish about their body awareness and those around them. And now keep in mind that we have male and females up on the station fairly routinely. They can't be as prudish, I'll use that word again, as you might expect. They simply can't be. They're in a combined little vessel. There really isn't any privacy up there. And so there has to be some awareness of just relax. Relax. You're going to be exposing your body to a bunch of strangers to a certain extent, but obviously comrades. And nudity will have to be something that's allowed, if you will, accepted, and really, quite frankly, encouraged every once in a while. in order to relieve the stress of all of these essential routines, and to take away the tension, the interpersonal tension that is inevitably going to arise. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody has to become nudists. I don't think that's necessary, and really, it's not practical on Mars. But it's something we all need to be aware of. As well, the cold. As I've mentioned in other videos, I've worked in extremely cold weather for extended periods of time, and then lived in cold climates for months at a time. And there is beyond the cold itself, there is a psychological tension that builds up by being aware of the cold. So even if you dress warmly, you have to brace yourselves for that cold. And even if you're in a nice warm place, you're aware of the cold outside. And that is wearing. You get tired. And you need every once in a while to be able to relax. As many of you, or most of you, must be aware, a lot of the northern countries have traditions of saunas. Here in North America, we kind of think of it as a luxury. It's not for these countries. You have to think that certainly the Norwegian countries and Russia and places like that have had these traditions for centuries. And I could tell you that certainly, 200 or 300 years ago, that building and then running a sauna is a hell of a lot of work. Considering the constraints on manpower and the resources they had at hand, they're not doing these things for frivolous reasons. These aren't luxuries. The Russians have saunas on some of their submarines, the larger submarines. I'm not sure about the smaller ones, but there's no extra space on a submarine. So why would they put a sauna in? And these saunas aren't for the officers. These are for everybody. Well, they're an important component of the survivability of sailors who live in extremely dangerous machines, which are cold and damp, and under extremely stressful conditions. And the opportunity to strip down and sit in a hot box so that you relax bone deep isn't a luxury. It's essential. And they're on cruises on the submarines for maybe months at a time, let alone people that are going to be on Mars for years at a time. What I'm suggesting is, obviously, we're going to need to be able to provide some sort of, maybe not sauna, although that would be an excellent solution, but there is going to have to be periods of hours, let's say, where people on Mars have the opportunity to strip down in a really, really warm environment so that they can relax. That's not going to be a luxury. That is something that is going to be essential as far as I'm concerned. And one thing that we will definitely have to consider. More to follow.